Yeah. All right, Russ, we're back. We got us our second installment here. If you watched our video on Monday, you saw us go over 22 coins in the Morgan Dollar series from Philadelphia. Today, we're going to talk about the New Orleans set. It's a great set, but it's definitely going to be a different collecting approach than the Philadelphia coins. These coins are not struck in the same characteristics, and we're going to get into that. In total, we're looking at about 16 coins. And I did a little quick math before we got on here today. And I'm thinking that, we're going to be spending probably about $2,000, give or take 100 here or there, to get these 16 coins. I think it's safe to say you're going to be a little bit over $100 a coin on average, but there are a couple issues you may find here or there. Some of the lower end coins may end up for the grade may be available for $80 or $85. The thing is, the New Orleans Mint, as we know, was established in 1838. This was one of the three mints, essentially, that were the first branch mints in the United States, the spoils of conquest, if you will. We get the New Orleans and all of that territory with the Louisiana Purchase and our fighting with the French. We get Charlotte and Dahlonega mints after discovering gold there, and Andrew Jackson's administration essentially deporting the indigenous Cherokee Indians, which ones were left. So the branch mints are set up, Charlotte and Dahlonega to process gold, and New Orleans to process essentially foreign coin coming from South America, primarily silver coinage. Students of history will also know that the Civil War was a turning point for these three branch mints. Charlotte and Dahlonega ceased operations, never to return. New Orleans was also shut down in 1861 and only returned because the mint needed the extra production capacity to strike these dollar coins. So the New Orleans set is the only Southern mint from the original three that return, and it has a great history that goes from this period all the way up to the very early first decade of the 20th century, where it makes some real great rare gold issues before it takes its final bow. But for now, we're going to look at their great Morgan dollars starting in 1879 with 1879.0. I'm Coin Week editor Charles Morgan, and I'm here with Russ Augustin, a longtime dealer, expert in the field of Morgan dollars, and an expert in the market. So we're going to talk about these coins. These are all coins you can afford to collect. We'll help you navigate this set so you can put it together and be happy with what you've accomplished. So Russ, let's talk 1879.0.
Okay, 1879.0 is, I think, sort of on an obtainability scale, is probably a little bit below average. So it's frequently encountered, but you're going to find a group of heavy bag marks with the issue. I mean, because they pretty much just traded bank to bank in sacks of 1,000. There was a lower than average mintage, I think, of 2.8. So therefore, it's one of those coins that is considered scarce in mint state grades. And in choice mint state, I think that the premium is going to be as great as you'll see in a set of Morgan dollars, like that one we're proposing to put together. To give you an idea, I'm looking up the average auction prices at the moment, and the high was $432, low of $186, with an average of $286. And that includes one CAC example, which actually was not that $400 price realized. That was actually $360. So this is the kind of the key coin as far as value is concerned for this set that we're proposing.
And this coin is one of those coins that is really difficult, I think, in gem grades, and that is one of the reasons why you see this sort of this extreme kind of price in the even in choice uncirculated. They used to call some of these coins like two beer dollars, and the implication was is that the New Orleans Mint would strike them. They would get out in circulation, but only circulate slightly, again, enough to purchase two beers. Then they would go back, be returned, redeemed or whatever, back to the government or put in long-term storage at the banks, and the Treasury ends up getting them back. So when we get them, we get these bags. They're all, they're all, slidery type of grades, two beer coins. In truth, I think silver coins wear a little slower than we like to think. So these two beer coins could have been in general circulation for 3 or 4 months before being redeemed or turned in. But that's the thing when we're looking for true mint state examples, especially Jimmy coins, they're very elusive. And when that 65 grade is $500, $600, $700 for the right coin, those prices do trickle down into the lower grades, because anything close to being attractive has a premium.
And keep in mind how large, or comparatively speaking, how large New Orleans was to Philadelphia at the time. I mean, even today, New Orleans is a substantially small community compared to some of the major cities in the United States. I mean, circulation, it had to have been shipped. These bags had to be shipped around a lot.
Right. And I think you'd see them up the coast and up the, through
Up the
Appalachia.
Mississippi.
Yeah, through Appalachia. I mean, anecdotal evidence. I think my assistant editor Hubert told me that his parents actually had a small accumulation of Morgan dollars, and there are quite a few O mint coins in there, and they came from the West Virginia area. So you can imagine that these are sort of going up in the sort of the rural South, in areas where like maybe the Philadelphia coins would be strutting in the north and the northeast and parts of like maybe the upper northwest, or north central part of the country. But the New Orleans mint was basically servicing the South with Morgan dollars. All right, so now we're going to move on to the second coin on the list. We're going to skip the 1880. That can be a very, very pricey coin. It's very rare in the upper strata of mint state, and then that impacts its price down the grades. The 1881 O though is a very interesting coin as well. This coin is also scarce in mint state 65 and above, but you do see coins in that choice uncirculated grade. You're looking at a mintage of 5,708,000 coins, but some of these were available when the Treasury was dispersing of its holdings. So these were coins that still kind of got around. They weren't all melted down, and so they are still available in mint state.
Yeah, a curious amount of die varieties too that PCGS and NGC recognize. But much like the Philadelphia coins, right around this time, we start entering into like the lack of a full strike. These are much like the 1880 80O and the 1879 O are going to always have flat strikes, and to find a full strike is going to be a real challenge. The luster on the coins too is just not quite going to be there. Don't compare your Carson cities with your San Franciscos with your New Orleans mint coins. The luster and the bag marks are all there. So as far as a value is concerned, this is going to be an affordable grade in 63, the 1881 O. The high is $228. And that would have been a die variety called the pummel die. But for the most part, we're looking at a trading range of between $130 and $90.
So the next date is the 1882 O. This is actually a really interesting coin, because there's an opportunity that exists out there. And although you'll seldom encounter this, the San Francisco Mint had their dies created for the San Francisco Mint of this issue that the engravers in Philadelphia overstamped with the O Mint mark. and you can occasionally find this O over S if a dealer or a bulk submitter didn't really take a real close eye to it, and those sell for quite a tidy premium. Without that, this is definitely one of the more affordable coins on the list, with just over 6 million examples struck, with many surviving in mint state.
Yeah, I would call it common, that the 83 and the 85O. But you made a good point that O over S has been around as long as I can remember as one of the first recognizable error varieties. It's easily distinguished with the naked eye too. And once again, as far as the varieties are concerned, the 1882O has approximately 21 different varieties. So it's not just the O over S that you might be looking for. Exceptionally flat, a weak strike, and below average luster. Trading levels are similar to what the 81O was, with a high of 240, but that would have been a CAC coin, and average trading range of $130 to $70, $130 to $70.
So we get to the next year on the list is the 1883O. Again, this is another one of the common New Orleans mint issues. You're probably looking at a total certified population, if I was to guess, between the two grading services, of somewhere in the neighborhood of about 250,000 certified mint state coins. Excuse
For
me.
all grades?
For all grades. And most of these coins are going to grade out in the 63 range. There's going to be a slight drop off when you get to 64. 65 is tough. And then from there on, that becomes quite a scarce coin. But in the 63 to 64 grade, that's your typical coin. Again, you're going to have strike issues, luster issues. These are not going to, these coins on their best day will not look as good as the typical Philly strike, and that impairs their ability to get these ultra high grades.
Right. Same thing with the 83O. I'm sorry, the 82O, the 83, 84, 85O. Constantly, you're going to encounter a flat strike, average bag marks and abrasions, and average luster. But you're also going to have in MS63 of about the 128,000 coins that are certified in MS63 by both PCGS and NGC, you will find a coin that you like. The top price for a CAC coin so far looks like it's about $400. But then again, the average is $135 to $65. So you're right in that sweet spot of the common date price, and a nicer coin is probably going to get over 120,000.
The 1884O is another common date. About 9.7 million of these were struck. Quite a few, probably 300,000 or so, have been certified. My impression of the 84O, Russ, is that of the New Orleans mint issues we've talked about so far, I think this one typically comes nicer. I would say the average uncirculated example I've seen is probably about a half a point to a point nicer than the typical 1883. They have a slightly better look. They still are elusive in the high grades, but I think this is. I would maybe go this far, but this isn't quite the 1881S of New Orleans mint Morgan dollars, but it is one of the nicer issues that's commonly available.
You're right. And actually, CAC has approved almost double the number of 83Os for this particular coin in this grade, which is kind of unusual. So that sort of goes right to your comment about how good they are, as far as in their state of preservation. Some do appear in full strikes, others do not. You're going to have about 19 different die varieties, and strangely, these coins are all over the board as far as values are concerned. But I think you can still count on the 130 to a 57 to $60 price range. Remember, the $60 price range is going to be what we call scudsy. It's just going to be probably an undesirable coin that's just been graded, that really nobody would want to collect because its eye appeal is so poor. However, there are coins that will bring $1,500 in this grade because of their beauty and their toning. So you just have to don't be surprised if somebody quotes $900 for a really nicely toned 84.0. That's just what the market brings with rainbow toning and things like that.
Moving on, we have the 1885-0, which I think also is one of the nicer New Orleans mint issues. And this is largely owed to the fact that so many of these bags survived into the 60s. So when they were getting broken up, they were being broken up by speculators and numismatic-minded individuals, going directly into coin collections and things like that. So it wasn't a case of a handful of straggling coins, being recycled and moved around and then eventually making it to the numismatic marketplace. So these sort of were bag fresh when we started to see them come into the market in the 60s and 70s.
Right. I think if we had to split hairs between these early New Orleans mint issues, this is probably the best one out of the preceding two or three that you're going to find for strike and an eye appeal. But again, it's going to range between the price of 125, 130 as a high, a high average, versus 70 as a low average. Some coins will realize $200 or $300, but there are either going to be a variety of which there are approximately 9 known, or it's going to have nice toning.
All right, moving on our list, we're up to the 1887-0. This is along with the 1879-0, the toughest coin on our list of New Orleans mint issues. I'm not even going to really get into the amazing 1887/6-0, which is one of the top VAM varieties, because I'm pretty sure those have probably been all picked. And you'd have to get one on the secondary market for sure.
Not so.
You think so? You have an example?
Not so. No. I was about 3 years ago. We were in Nebraska at the Four Corners there, and there was a collection. A guy had about 8 safes in his barn. He had a whole bunch of rolls of silver dollars, and sure enough, 4 of those rolls were all 7/6 O's. It was amazing. I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 20. There was 80 of them. It was fantastic. So, yes, scarcer to find, but not impossible.
All right, so I've been proven wrong. Scarcer to find, but not impossible. What do those sell for now, Russ? What do they sell for about?
The 7/6s?
Yeah.
$900,000, something like that on average.
Wow. Do they typically come any sort of way, or do they have a distinct look to them, that die, or is just?
No, I mean, you just look at the date and you automatically can see there's something going on with that 7.
That little curve of the base is kind of at the bottom of the 7, and
yeah. But it's these coins are big enough so that you can actually do this without the use of a loop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if die variety collectors, if they're constantly doing this, doing this, when they're looking at someone's collection or a dealer's showcase, it's going to get tedious. The dollars help because of the size, and you can actually pick out a 7/6 pretty quickly if you know what you're looking for. Same with the O/S mint mark. It helps to have the loop, but you can almost, with good eyes, you can make out that too.
How frequently, Russ, would you say that dealers are? I'm not necessarily talking about like your specialty dealers, but just your typical dealer. I mean, how frequently are they looking over their material like this for varieties and things like that? Is that something that just comes with the business, or does that take a different degree of attention that isn't commonly undertaken?
It's a pretty good question. I think that if you had an employee who sold a roll of 1887 O mint Morgan dollars, and it was later find out that they were all 87 over 6 O mint dollars, that's grounds for some sort of termination. I know of some very large firms that actually make their professional numismatists look at every single coin to make sure that varieties are not being overlooked. They're maximizing the value of the coin that they have in their hand. On the other hand, look at all the mom and pops, brick and mortar, pawn shops, things like that. They don't know what they're looking for. They don't know the coins the way some collectors and dealers do. So I think it's still possible to find treasure in an attic cufflink case or something like that, as long as you know what to look for.
Well, it makes me wonder. I mean, you know how like frequently dealers rely on the third-party services, when to basically make the product, So the thing is like variety attribution services are kind of like in the minority of all the attributions are great that are being done. So you can get, unless it's like a 1942 over 1 mercury dime or something, which is like you need it on the holder. There are many varieties of coins that just aren't even like attributed at all. It's just you send like a bust $50 in for grading. They're not breaking it out unless you pay them for it. They're not telling you what Sheldon number your large cent is. They're not really breaking these down. They're not really telling you what VAM you have unless you specifically ask for it. And a lot of times
you have to pay for it.
Yeah, you have to pay for it, and oftentimes you sort of have to tell them what you are looking for anyway when you submit the coin, and then they determine whether or not you have what you think you have. So if most coins are sold without any third party telling you what the variety is, like why would we assume that dealers are even looking at these coins in the first place?
Well, here's an interesting anecdote. First of all, if you don't click the variety or check the variety box on your submission form, you're right. Whatever you put in there, if they agree with the date, you're going to get back a date with a grade. And here's the anecdote. So from a major company, and I won't say what, I bought an 1808 $5 gold piece. And it was actually, as I recall, I think it was an old green holder. Okay, so it was certified some time ago. Without going through the variety attribution, this dealer who sold it to me for $8,000 left $4,000 on the table because it was in fact an 1808 over 7. So it helps to know what varieties are out there, especially those varieties that make a difference in value. I'm not going to say that 8 over 7 score occurs all the time because, it doesn't. But to be aware of it and to know when to jump on it is really important.
And so that would have been a thing you would have been aware of when you made that purchase. Was that a key factor in your decision to buy that coin? Is that you knew that it was that variety?
I bought it as an 1808 and sold it as an 1808. But when I saw it as an 1807, I couldn't sell it as an 1807 because it was, as the way I looked at it, it was not attributed correctly. So I had to go out and find another 1808 for that particular client. But in the meantime, the 1808 over 7, something, I actually went back to the dealer and I said, you sold me an 1808 over 7. And it's one of the good guys. And they said, look, you scored, we don't want it back. You paid for it, but thank you for telling us. I don't know what happened, in the back room that day, but I'm sure somebody got some sort of repercussion for that.
Right. Well, better that than a Stella or something.
I don't know of many varieties of the Stella, but if a flowing hair was sold as a coiled hair sold as a flowing hair, that would be a problem.
Right. Yeah. All right. So the
actually, wait a minute. There is a variety of Stella. I know we're getting off on a tangent, but apparently don't you know the 1879 flowing hair? Aren't there certain die lines that would indicate that it's one of the first 15 or 25 struck?
Yeah,
and then the rest were restrikes.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So, and how many people know that?
The people with the money.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on, we have the 1888 Morgan dollar.
One of my all-time favorite dates because of the different die varieties of the coin. I think earlier we talked about a scar-faced. We didn't talk about the hot lips, which is actually a major variety that sells for multiples of what just a regular coin does. So 1888.
Here's a whole stack. Here's a whole stack of hot lips, by the way. I have like 15 of them here at the office.
Where'd you get all those?
Yeah. A friend of mine, Rob Ezerman.
Hold still. Hold
yeah.
still.
Yeah, sent them to us.
Okay, I can read hot lips, but I can't see it. But
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. He was buying them in all sorts of grades. Apparently, you can identify the hot lips even in AG. And so anyway, I gotta send these back to him. That reminds me. But yeah. So we did a piece on these.
That's pretty cool. But anyway, so PCGS recognizes hot lips. They recognize the scar face. We were talking about early die states and things like that. So 1888 is one of those dates that, I don't mind if anybody does this at my table because they're looking for probably close to, I would say, a dozen or more different types of varieties for the coin. But when it comes down to the coin itself, it has a trading range of $125 to $80. And I think the high watermark would be 160. So it falls into the less expensive variety for the set.
Skip the 1889 and move on to the 1890 This is a date with a mintage of over 10,700,000 coins. But as often is the case with these New Orleans strikes, usually really weak strikes here. And this is one of the real reasons why you don't see too many attractive examples in Mint State. They tend to be washed out and flat.
Well, not only that, but in MS63 grade, you have a tenth of the coins graded that you have for the earlier dates we've been discussing. Like there's only 9,000 in both services. And it's almost evenly divided. I mean, I think there's a little more the PCGS than NGC, but here we have it as a part of this set. I never could quite understand the ratios. If it's 10 times as rare as an 83.0, yet sells for 2 or 3 times the price, maybe twice the price, why wouldn't anybody be buying these things like en masse? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, in fact, actually, you can sometimes find these in a real deal, 70, $80 isn't unusual to see them on eBay or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's at some point in time, the market might get so sophisticated that it actually kind of does one of these things. I saw it happen with as the bullion spot gold price started rising, like 1914S, 1915S Saints started skyrocketing higher than the common date Philadelphia coins. So this could happen the same. This could happen with the same. This price performance could happen similarly with scarcer Morgan dollars. You do have 10 million minted. So, with 10 million, you've got a whole lot more than the earlier ones, but apparently they just didn't exist. Flat strike, weak ear, expect the worst. Heavy bag marks and moderate abrasions. Does have some varieties, but not some notable ones. And again, talking about price here, we're looking at maybe $300 as the high, but an average of 190 versus a low of maybe 170.
So Russ, like when we're dealing with the coins that typically don't come nice, like what tools do collectors have in order of figuring out what the nice versions are for that type? I mean, if everything comes kind of bad in the first place and you're never going to get like a perfect strike, like how do you kind of get the best of the worst, if you will?
Well, there's no substitute for experience, and coins that are certified make it easy. I mean, if you look at 65 grade coins, let's say we're talking about the 1890 EO. You're going to a show, or you're looking at an auction catalog, and you can compare and contrast the same coin, but in different grades that are certified by PCGS. It's almost like it's almost like a litmus test on how to train your eye to grade the coins. If you pay particular attention to the strikes and things like that, what you're going to find is that when you do encounter a coin for sale, you're going to recognize it for what it is, and therefore you're going to have more confidence in buying it.
Yes, I guess that's the thing. It comes really down to a pattern recognition skills. You know, if you know what the flat hair usually looks like, you know what the flat vegetal material is in the hat. If you know what the flat chest piece looks like, the more you see that, when you see things that are slightly out of that box, kind of like a 1950s Jefferson nickel, how flat they are in the back. When you see any detail, you know, then you say, okay, well, this is a cut above what I'm used to seeing. So that those become the coins maybe you try to gear your eye towards.
Right.
You definitely are going to be in for a different experience buying some of those nicer S-Mint issues versus buying one of these coins. If you bought an 1882 S the same day you buy your 1890 O in the same grade, and you're looking at both coins side by side, your eye is obviously going to go to the S-Mint coin. But it's probably a good idea to like look at a number of O-Mint coins before you start buying.
And the other thing is that, I mean, provided that you are getting acquainted with 2 or 3 dealers who care about some sort of a relationship with you, you know, that may recognize you at a show, or, you know, takes your phone call, returns an email, your downside risk on your first purchase of a coin is going to be 10, possibly 15%. You know, so it's not the end of the world. You still have value in a coin that at some point in time you might want to replace because you just found a nicer one. So I don't know any greater lesson in learning than to make a mistake. It's not really a mistake, but so if it costs you $15 or $25 to jump from one coin to another, so what?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know? That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because like, you know, when I built my registry set of dollars, there were coins that I was quite happy with when I purchased that later ended up out of the set because I found better coins. And it wasn't like a situation where I felt like I had made a mistake with a coin that I was getting rid of. It was just that was the best coin available in the coins I was looking at the time I purchased it, and I was happy with it. But circumstance would dictate that another coin came along that really caught my attention, and that second coin must have been really nice because it knocked out a coin I really liked already. And so in many cases, and this is the thing that happens as collections mature, you'll find as your personality and the personality of the set develops, you'll say, okay, well, I really like this coin, but it's not right for this set because this or that. And we're talking right now about coins that are $100, $200, $300. But you know, Russ, as somebody who's helped build very expensive collections for high-end collectors, that there'll be opportunities that you have to get to know their collection, and they'll call you maybe and say, hey, Russ, I'm really interested in buying this coin. And you could make your percentage off of it, selling it or getting it for them. But you say, no, you don't want that coin. That coin's not right for your collection. And it's all a matter of the fact that, like, once you understand what someone's collection is, that things, just because they need them and they come to the market, they may not have the coin may not fit with the rest of the material they have, or it may not be what they should be getting considering what they've already purchased. You know, so there's this situation that develops even at the upper end of the market where the skill as a dealer is to get clients not to buy coins, so that when the right coins come along, you can say, okay, this is the coin that you've been waiting for.
Exactly. Yep.
All right, let's move on. The 1898 O. So we skip quite a few years here. United States goes into a pretty significant depression around 1893 when all the chickens come home to roost. The value of silver relative to gold gets out of whack, and the Treasury starts to deplete its gold holdings. But the economy recovers. There's some changes in law. And so by 1898, instead of the 10, 11 million coins we were seeing, the New Orleans puts out 4.4 million coins. Still a hefty amount, but nowhere near the peak production years.
Yeah. I mean, 92, 3, 4, 95, 96, 97, they're all rarity in their own right, some more than others. 95O is usually bought in circulated grades. But yes, you get back to the 98O, and I think that you find a majority of these coins are going to be a full strike issue. They're not as poorly struck as the ones earlier. There are some die varieties, but maybe 12, but they're more inconsequential. I don't know of any specific varieties that come right out and say, I have a 50% premium over a common date. And it is also one of the more commonly encountered Morgan dollars out of the entire series, with an average price of about $100, maybe 120, and a low of 70, with a high of maybe 150.
Right, and that was a coin that was represented in the Treasury hoards of the 50s and 60s, which is why so many choice coins survive and with a good amount of luster. And really at that point, you're looking at things like bag marks and other types of abrasions that happen because these things are moved all over the place. So we move on to the 1899 O. This coin was actually considered quite scarce, despite the fact that 12,290,000 were struck. If you were an American coin collector in the first half of the 20th century, the early part of it, this would have been one of the expensive coins and probably would have had a decent amount of interest if it showed up at an auction. But as the Treasury bags were opened, quite a number of these were just in long-term storage and were released. So this is relegated back to I wouldn't necessarily say it's a common date, but it's on that second tier of Morgan dollars, coins that are in that $100 to $300 price range, and that's because we were able to pull quite a number of these out of the vaults.
Right, and far more of them are above average strikes than you're going to find with some of the other issues. And because they've been in sacks, thousand face bags, you're going to find a moderate amount of bad marks rather than circulation bag marks. There are approximately 15 different die varieties, one of which is quite extraordinary. It's a micro O mint mark. And a micro O mint mark is going to sell for over $10,000. However, why would it sell for that? Well, there aren't that many of them, but it's well worth trying to cherry pick, obviously, if you can find one. I think PCGS and NGC have a combined total certification of close to 100 coins, as opposed to the tens of thousands of a non-micro O that they have certified. And once again, average price of about 125 with a low price of 75 to 80 and a high of 150.
So now we start to get into the 20th century issues, and this, of course, will be the last few years of the New Orleans Mint striking Morgan dollars. As many people collect the series are aware, the coin was struck more or less continuously from 1879 through about 1904. And then after that, it took a break until it came back in 1921. But when it comes back in 1921, the New Orleans Mint has already been deactivated. So there was no 1921 O dollar. So we have the 1900, 1901, 1902, and 1904 coins to go through. These will be the last 4 coins from New Orleans on our list of 16. The 1900 O has one of the more fascinating numismatic errors that you're going to see. This was the famous O over CC mint mark error. The Carson City Mint was long gone by 1900. Well, maybe not long gone, but it had been gone for a few years. But apparently they deployed that mint mark punch erroneously and then covered it up. This is just one of the classic varieties for people to collect.
Right, and it's affordable too. I mean, within reason. I mean, a 63 coins right now trading for maybe $1,500 or $1,700 or something like that. And you can distinctly see the O punched over the CC. Very cool coin, especially to Carson City Mint collectors.
You ever see these slip through the cracks, like in regular holders, and nobody paid attention?
Not as much as others, no. I'm kind of always, I always like pull a coin like that out of inventory, even though they might be fairly common, because it just seems to me that there's such a great demand for them that I always want to put them up on the website for sale.
So what can we say about the 1900 the one that is not the scarce variety? Are we looking
in
at
addition to that
strikes?
Actually, there's far more. In addition to that, there's an average of 26 different types of varieties, but most of the strikes are going to be poor to average. It just does not exist very nicely. In fact, I think that talking about the O over CC, I think that strike is quite a lot better than the regular O mint, only because of when and how it was struck. Again, the value is pretty consistent with a $75 to $80 low, $125 average, with $150 as a high price over the past 24 months.
All right, 1901, 13,320,000 coins are struck in this year. This is one of the more common dates of the New Orleans Mint issues. Much more common, I think.
But a really poorly struck, a poorly manufactured coin.
I wonder if they just stopped caring. Like the equipment was getting old, the mint workers are like, must have been hot.
Well, it is New Orleans.
Air conditioning.
It is New Orleans after all, right? I mean, the end was in 1909, right? I mean, in fact, it pretty much was in 1904, because then that's when they stopped the silver dollars, and then they made the $5 gold piece and the $5 gold piece in 1909. That was it. And if you've ever been to New Orleans and actually taken a tour of the mint, it's all brick and it's like cramped and it's tiny. And I can only imagine that in May, June, July, August, and part of September, that was a bare place to work.
Yeah, I can't imagine the conditions these guys had to work under.
Right.
So the 1901 coin is another very difficult coin that was practically impossible to find in mint state until the Treasury hoards released coins. So this would have been another coin that precipitously declined in value around the 1950s, 1960s.
Like the 1903, especially. The 1903 was considered an ultra rarity, right? And then they found bags, and then it got reduced in price.
It's interesting the way they sold those coins too, Russ, is they found a bag of them, but they didn't announce that they had a bag of them. They kind of trickled out until it became obvious that they had a lot of them.
You got to kind of wonder who was behind that.
Well, I think if I had a bag of $1804, I don't think I would tell anybody I had a bag of them for a little while.
I don't think you could possibly get rid of that in your lifetime.
I think you'd have a difficult time even getting them certified. I think since they didn't make them in mint state, unless unless you believe they did, and they got sank off the shores of Tripoli. They didn't make them in Mint State in 1804, and then I don't know how anybody would authenticate them if somehow they turned up. There are no
That's a good
comparables.
point. That's a very good point. It certainly would make news, national news for that matter. So the 1901 has got the same thing going for it. You can figure $125 for the high, $75 to $80 for the low, and then the average is being $150 for an exceptional piece.
Do you think have the prices of the New Orleans Mint coins performed at the same basis as the Philadelphia and San Francisco strikes, or is there a do they behave differently in the market due to their quality issues?
I'm not aware of them behaving any differently. I think that when we talk about coins that are not the 1921 issue, they're all pre-21. And an MS-63 grade, I don't think people distinguish between them as the way you're referring to. On the other hand, if you get into the higher grades, yes, I think you're right about that. Starting in 64 in MS-64, going to MS-65, and certainly in MS-66, there are great distinctions between the mints and the values.
All right, so we have two coins left. We have the 1902 here. The mint struck 8,636,000. So this is not necessarily at the top of the register of the total output per year for New Orleans, but one of the more common dates, and many were saved. In fact, actually, this is an example where, although it can be pricey once you get to gem or above, there are more 67 plus type coins for the state than there are for most of the New Orleans Mint issues. So we were able to get some fresh bags out in the 50s and 60s that just had coins that weren't really kicked around that much. So this is a date that you will occasionally see really nice coins.
I agree. Absolutely. It also, from 1898 to 1904, it has the worst strike. The 1901 is a very close second, but 1902 it's definitely got the worst strike. Heavy bag marks, multiple abrasions, that sort of thing. And as a result, you can expect that it's going to trade the same way as the other common issues. 120 for an average price, 75 to 80 for the low, and about 150 for an exceptional coin.
And we close out with the 1904. This is another one. This was another one of the great rare issues in the early 20th century. Even some of the great collections that were sold before the 50s may not have included a mint state example of the 1904, which is crazy to think. Today, it's not considered that rare of an issue because the ones that were saved didn't get released into the circulation until the 1960s. So those bags come out, they crash the market. But the interesting thing is the market absorbs everything. And over time, the prices start to go up. And that's true for this issue as well. Once you get to the choice and gem grades, they start climbing, and they keep climbing up to the superb gem grades.
Right on. I've seen some interesting proof-like and a few deep mirror proof-like of the issue, which are very difficult to encounter. But nevertheless, in MS-63, choice brilliant uncirculated, you're still going to have 110,000 coins certified by both services from which to choose. And while you're choosing it, you can keep in mind that it has the same average value of 125 with a low of about 75 and with a PQ grade price of about $225.
And you see quite a few VAMs for the state.
The approximate number of die varieties is 10. But, by all means, check on vamworld.com, which we mentioned in the first web podcast, to check to see which ones make a difference. Not all of them make a difference. You have the hot 50. Let's see, the hot 50, the top 100, and then you have a hit list 40 or something like that. I think.
Yeah, I think there's like 4 or 5 like main sets of VAMs with their own
Right
following, if you will.
Yeah.
And so that does it for this episode. I want to thank Russ taking the time, doing some of the market research to discuss these coins. And again, we'll have our checklist of the 50 coins from the set that everybody can put together. I would recommend that you look over the set before taking a dip into any of these areas. May not be a bad idea if you decide to do it, to target the most valuable ones first, because you can get the most expensive ones out of the way before they go up in price anymore. But it's good to, challenge yourself, but also pace yourself. You don't have to get every single one of these coins at one coin show. This could be a 3-year, 5-year project if you want it to be, and it still be richly rewarding. In our next episode, which we'll publish on Friday, we're going to look at the S Mint coins, the 1D Mint coin, which is the Denver Mint 1921D. And we're going to look at 2 CC Mint coins that every Morgan Dollar collector should have in their collection. So we'll be back on Friday, and Russ and I will take you through that. Thank you so much, Russ, for taking the time. There you go.
There's one that's toned. 84.0.
What's the retail value of a coin like that, Russ?
And that's $375
with that toning.
But there's the NGC green holder, and you see the peripheral toning. I thought I'd bring that out just so that you could see that there are exceptional examples, but this is only one-sided. So
that would have been a contact with it and a probably a bag toning then, wouldn't you say? With the one side,
it kind of looks that way. Yeah.
Yeah, the back would have been protected.
Yep.
So if it was in a weight Raymond holder, both sides would be toned, right?
Yep.
So, all right, Russ, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Charles. Good to talk with you.